Good morning. Welcome to Trading Hour. I'm Reema Tendulkar and with me Sonia Shenoy, and the markets continue to inch up. This is the 11th straight day of gains for the market. It's been a steady morning so far. The Nifty is above 25,200. Mid-caps are outperforming, and this week so far, the Nifty has seen a rally of 1.6%, while the mid-cap index has seen a gain of about 1.3%. Today, you are seeing that outperformance from the broader markets, though, after sulking a bit over the last couple of days. The big winners today, now the top Nifty gainer is Bharti Airtel. Here today, there are a couple of news flow. One, Bernstein raised the target price on Bharti Airtel to 1740 versus earlier 1600 rupees. So there is that increase in target price boosting the share price of Bharti Airtel. And secondly, remember yesterday in the AGM, Chairman Mukesh Ambani spoke about how they want Jio's revenues to double in the next 3 to 4 years. Well, implied in that, according to analysts, is that the assumption that there has to be tariff increases. Otherwise, it's a tough target, right? How do you double your top line in 3 to 4 years? So the street is also baking in certain tariff increases, which should benefit Bharti Airtel, considering that it has about 37% of the revenue market share. So that's another added, positive for Bharti Airtel. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Reema. Absolutely. And the market as well, right? Overall, looking really good at this point in time. And despite everything, the market building on to its gains and sitting at fresh record highs. So lots to talk about as we begin the day this morning. First up, we have SpiceJet, which is under pressure after the DGCA has put the airline under enhanced surveillance after an engineering audit revealed deficiencies. Sudarshan joins in now with more details on that. Sudarshan, over to you.
That's correct. So SpiceJet stock is under pressure. The stock has fallen up to 6% on the back of two news flows. First is company has placed 150 cabin crew members on furlough for 3 months, and the reason company has given is this step is taken in response to current lean travel season and reduced fleet size with long-term stability of organization in the mind. The second news is aviation regulator DGCA has put the company under enhanced surveillance, and the reason DGCA has given is special audit conducted on August 7-8 has revealed certain deficiencies in the operation, and that's the reason it has been put on surveillance to ensure safety of operations. Now, if we talk about the recent earnings that company has announced for Q1 FY25 and Q4 FY24, company has reported profit for second straight quarter, but revenue continues to see a decline. And total assets as of June 2024 was up 17% year-on-year, and total liabilities had fallen almost 14%. Now liabilities are more than rupees 6,300 crore higher than the total assets. Also, auditor's note was there with the earnings. What does auditor say? It says accumulated losses as of June 2024 amount to almost 7,700 crore, and this indicates the existence of material uncertainty, and it casts significant doubt about company's ability to continue as a going concern. And apart from earnings, company had also approved fundraising up to rupees 3,000 crore via QIP, and which is expected to be completed this month. But will the QIP money enough? Company in its statement had said fresh infusions should enable the airline to expand and unground its fleet, enhance operational abilities, and settle liabilities and improve market competitiveness, and funds will stabilize overall operations.
Thank you very much for that. The other stock that we're tracking today is Vodafone Idea. Now, the stock is not doing too much, but it's on our radar because today the Supreme Court is going to hear the curative petition filed by the company on its AGR dues. The company had said that there were certain arithmetical calculations in the principal component of the AGR. They even requested for a waiver of the penalty. So therefore, the AGR dues which are on the company are about 70,000 crore rupees. According to the company's calculation, the actual AGR amount should be lower by about 30 to 35,000 crore rupees. And that's why the curative petition has been filed. Now, if it is successful, then it provides a lot of cash flow relief for the company. Remember, from H2 of next year, the company, the 4-year moratorium, which is granted for these AGR payments, will come to an end, and the company has to make big payouts, 29,000 crore rupees. And from FY27, we're talking about 43,000 crore rupees of annual payments. So if there is that AGR relief, maybe 50% of the dues come down, then this cash flow outflow, this cash outgo that's anticipated from next year will come down. That said, I just want to caution that historically, instances of curative petitions being heard, and even being successful are fairly rare. But analysts point out that considering that the government is largest shareholder in Vodafone Idea, and if Vodafone Idea has to be a viable, competitive third private player, then this perhaps is a necessary step, this kind of relief for the company. Any positive news flow on this curative petition benefits Bharti Airtel too, and even Indus Stars. But there are two other triggers. We spoke about how, perhaps tariff hikes are going to be in the offing on a more frequent basis compared to what they've been. We've just had a tariff hike, so don't expect anything for the next 12 months. But, as the AGM pointed out, if Jio has to double the revenues in the next 3 to 4 years, maybe tariff hikes are baked in. And secondly, there is that MSCI India rejig too, and the expectation is that Vodafone Idea gets added, and that could result in inflows in the stock.
Okay, since we're talking about Vodafone Idea, the Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia has said that the union government will not interfere in Vodafone Idea's affairs. Speaking to Money Control, Scindia added that the government would like to have a competitive telecom sector. Remember, the centre owns about 23.8% stake in Vodafone Idea. Take a look.
Vodafone Idea has got its own professional management, and therefore what happens in the financial and operational workings of a company is their business and not our business as a ministry. At this point of time, as I mentioned, it is the management of the company that has to decide what practice to follow. We would like a competitive telecom sector. And as the Ministry of Telecom would like, at the end of the day, the best quality of service and choice, as you mentioned, to customers.
Well, apart from telecom, pharma stocks are also in focus on the back of a Citi note. Ekta is here to get you up to speed with all the details there. Ekta, over to you.
Well, yes, the Nifty Pharma Index is going from strength to strength, and we do have a very comprehensive report which is coming from Citi today with regards to a lot of pharmaceutical stocks. So for Aurobindo, they have a sell call, but they've raised the target price to 12.85. They believe that the street is building a 9% top-line growth over FY24 to 26, which is a bit stretched according to them. Dr. Reddy's sell call, but they've raised the target price there as well. According to them, earnings may fall disproportionately post-Revlimid generic if in case the company does not streamline their cost structure. Gland, a sell call, but they've raised their target price to 14.20. They've cut the FY25 to 27 estimated EPS by 16% and 7% respectively, reflecting the competition in the US baseline products and softness in generic prices. Lupin sell, but they've raised the target price there to 1700. FY26 is expected to be a stronger year according to them. Zydus, they have a sell and a target price of 900. Now coming to the buy, Sun Pharma, they've maintained their buy, but they've raised their target price as well to over 2,000 odd rupees by raising their multiple to 37 times versus 30 times. Cipla, they've maintained a buy. They've raised the target price to 1870. They say it's their top India pharma pick. Valuations have moved up and still appear comfortable according to them. And lastly, Torrent Pharma, buy with a target price of 3,940 odd rupees.
Thank you very much for that. We will slip into a break. We'll come back and discuss commodities on the other side with Manisha Gupta. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Trading Hour on CNBC TV 18. Looking good for the market, continues to be at record highs, building on to its gains. But one sector that's in focus today is sugar, because the stocks are surging as the government has lifted curbs on ethanol production from cane juice, B-heavy molasses and C-heavy molasses for 2024 and 2025 sugar season. Manisha is here to explain this to us. Manisha, over to you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, it's come as a very strong, big news in the month of December when the government did put in all those restrictions. It was very jittery for overall industry, which has invested a lot when it comes to distilleries and for ethanol blending as well. But government, in its latest notification that came in last night, now says that they are removing all restrictions when it comes to making ethanol, whether it is from cane juice, B-heavy or C-heavy molasses. Well, that has been a big positive, but that's not the only one, because the government in another notification also says that ethanol distilleries are now now allowed to participate into auction with Food Corporation of India, which it does for private traders. So it's not a different stream for them, but they can also put in their tenders within this e-auction. Now, this is a positive in the sense that the industry will now be allowed to participate into this. And 23 lakh tons is the cap that has been put in. Also, you can e-auction the kind of ethanol that you are permitted to produce as via OMCs on what they will buy from you. But there is a catch here. One, the whole e-auction procedure or process is a long drawn one. And the second is the kind of pricing that FCI has put isn't really profitable for many of these ethanol makers. So a couple of things that the markets do hope that will seek some clarity on. One is the ethanol pricing increase that hasn't been changed yet for the new season. So that is something that the industry is waiting for. And the other one is the sugar MSP. Well, that has been an ask since 2019. So these are a couple of things. If they also come through, then all the pieces of the puzzle will just fit in proper.
Okay, but even before the pieces of the puzzle fit in, the stocks are very excited. Triveni Engineering, 8.5%. Dhampur, Sri Renuka, up nearly 6-7%. Thank you, Manisha, for that. In fact, let's get our viewers the conversation that we had with the management of Sri Renuka's earlier today. Listen in.
No, in fact, whether we like it or not, all these changes are going to be relevant once the next crushing season is started. Because cane juice as of today is not available because crushing is just not there. So I would say October onwards, it should start impacting the operations and operations big time. We are actually looking at an increase of closer to what the maize ethanol price is. Say, for example, as far as cane juice is concerned, which is about 65 rupees a litre, we want it to be jacked up to closer to 72 or 73 rupees a litre. And secondly, for the B-heavy, we want it to be suitably increased to about 66, 67 rupees. So that we hope the government would take suitable decision in the matter.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Even the likes of Globus Spirits and Triveni Engineering are rallying hard today. We'll slip into a short break on that note. We'll come back and discuss market technicals. Mitesh Thakkar will join in on the other side. Welcome back. Some buying has come in NIIT Limited, the company that provides corporate learning. NIIT Limited is up 5%. It's been a bit choppy for the company. Last week, it rallied hard because of the promoters buying. Ramesh Damani, bought some shares, 8 lakh shares in the company. But after that, it saw a bit of a correction, and today it's up nearly 5%. The other one is Unicommerce eSolution, blockbuster debut on Dalal Street, but it underwent a bit of a correction over the last couple of days, profit booking. But today, Unicommerce eSolutions is up nearly 5%. Let's welcome Mitesh Thakkar on the show now to get in a few market technicals. Mitesh, markets continue to climb higher bit by bit. Is there a trade on any of the indices? And what would your stock calls be?
Yeah. So I think both the indices look good in health, and one which can be traded right now is the Bank Nifty. Take a stop just below today's low, which is about 51,300. So we'll take a stop at about 51,280. And look for a target of 51,700, 5800 on the upside. So maintain a positive bias. On the stock side, I have a buy on City Union Bank with a stop at about 170 or 169.5 and look for targets of 182. And one stock which is reversing with a lot of strength is Shree Cement. So buy here with a stop at 25,000 for targets of 26,000.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mitesh, for that. Appreciate it. Let's slip into a short break. On the other side of the break, we'll get you more market updates and get you up to speed on all the latest stocks that are in the news. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Trading Hour on CNBC TV 18. Well, there are plenty of stocks at 52-week highs, so just thought, mention some of them to you. A lot of the pharmaceutical stocks have been at fresh highs. So today as well, there's Divi's, there's Cipla, Torrent Pharma, Lupin, Apollo Hospitals. All these pharma names are sitting at fresh 52-week highs. Some of them are building onto their gains. Some of them are coming off their day's highs. but the trajectory for these pharma stocks in the last 6 months has been amazing. In fact, a lot of these names, I mean, if you look at, something like a Divi's Laboratories, if you just pull up, say, a one-year chart, you'll see the kind of trajectory it's had. This is, of course, today for Cipla. Divi's there in the last 1 month, it's up about 4%. In 15 days, it's almost, a big rally. In 12 months, about 40% move. So big moves coming in pharma. But trading of Tata Motors DVR shares will stop from close of trade today. To discuss more on this, we have Sriram Velayudhan of IIFL Securities who's joining in. Sriram, thanks a lot, for joining in. First, if you can just explain to us what does this really mean for an average shareholder?
Yeah, hi. Good morning. So as you pointed out, yesterday was the last day to trade DVR, Tata Motors DVR, to get the benefit of shares of Tata Motors. So what happened was the scheme of cancellation of DVR being similar to what happens in case of mergers. There was an index adjustment in Nifty and Sensex, because Tata Motors is a part of both the indices. When DVR gets cancelled, the holders of DVRs will be issued shares of Tata Motors. For this situation. So as a result of issuing...
Sriram, I think, there is some issue with the phone line. We can't hear you very well. Can you just repeat what you were saying?
Sure. So what I said was, as DVR shares went X, at the same time there was a hit up in Tata.
Okay, I think we have a really bad line, Sriram. So unfortunately, we'll have to connect again. Hopefully, we'll get you back on a better line. But thanks a lot for joining in. So that's on the Tata Motors DVR. Well, for now, just wanted to once again point out a couple of more stocks that are doing pretty well at the moment. We've spoken about a lot of these pharma names. Even IT is coming back in a big way. So HCL Tech is at a fresh 52-week high today. Something like a Persistent Systems has been gaining a lot of ground. You have Info Edge, which is at a fresh 52-week high as well this morning. And then in the pharmaceutical space, something like a Dr. Lal Path Labs, Krishna Institute of Medical Sciences. So these are two spaces that are coming back, whether it's IT or pharma. But I think Sriram is back with us. Sriram, sorry, we're getting you at a better line. If you can just, explain to us once again what the impact of this DVR shares being suspended, what does this really mean?
So now, as DVRs, as yesterday was the last day to trade DVR, yesterday was also the last day for holders to buy DVR to take a benefit of the DVR cancellation. Now, as a result of DVR cancellation, the holders will be issued shares of Tata Motors. Now, this being similar to a merger event, the weight of Tata Motors in Sensex and Nifty indices were to be adjusted, because as shares of Tata Motors will be issued to the holders of DVR, Tata Motors being part of both Sensex and Nifty, the passive fund tracking fund managers had to adjust the weight of Tata Motors. So roughly this event aggregated Nifty and Sensex was a $250-260 million inflow event, as a result of which we ended up seeing a bump up in price of Tata Motors towards the end of yesterday's trading.
Okay, fair enough. That's well explained. Also, today is the big liquidity event where the MSCI August index rejig can bring in $5.5 billion of inflow, according to you. Just take us through what we should expect.
Yeah, sure. So this is easily one of the biggest inflow event India per se that we will see in recent that we will be seeing in recent years. Now this is as a result of 7 additions in the standard index, and also on the back of a weight up in a few names like HDFC Bank, Bharti, Coal, ICICI General Insurance. Of this lot, HDFC Bank is by far the highest. We are anticipating inflows of $1.8 to $2 billion towards end of towards days close today. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that as India's weight in emerging market goes up, this is at the mercy of this is on the back of the weight down in other EMs like China, Taiwan, South Korea, and others. So all this has led to a big inflow for India in the emerging market pack. This should be close to 5.1 to 5.5 billion net inflow for India. This really is big.
Okay, that's a big one. Shriram, thanks a lot for joining in and explaining that to us. Appreciate your time here. That's IIFL Securities. Let's shift focus now to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. Parikshit Luthra caught up with Saugata Gupta, the MD and CEO of Marico, and began by asking him about the demand trends and how they see growth going ahead. Listen in.
We are expecting gradual improvement in volume growth as we step into the next few quarters. Also, the anniversarization of all our price drops are taking place this quarter. So hopefully in terms of the revenue growth will be ahead of volume growth, and we aspire to at least start hitting double-digit revenue growth as we go into the second half. I think there are green shoots in rural. I think the worst is over for rural, and some of the steps which the government has taken, coupled with a more or less satisfactory monsoon, ensures that the rural growth will gradually improve. Inflation is broadly under control, and so therefore if there are no black swan events, we believe that there would be a slightly better volume growth as we move into the balanced 3 quarters of the year.
So any price increases that you're likely to take across the portfolio that could come in?
We have taken some price increases in Parachute around that, so therefore which will give us, as I said, this year a kind of a revenue growth which could be higher than our volume growth, and that's why we are reasonably confident that we should be, getting into double-digit revenue growth in the back half of the year. I don't see any significant price increases as of now, unless there are any black swan events with respect to crude or any other material. But I think things seem to be under control.
Right. Speaking about your international business, and it's just not just for Marico, but for other companies as well, the global environment is quite volatile right now, both in India's neighborhood and in the Middle East. How do you see all the developments impacting your international business right now? And could there be some impact in Q2?
Look at it, I think, if you look at from COVID, which is 2020, and then Ukraine happened, I believe black swan events are now embedded as a part of risk management, and therefore we have to be, resilient to face these kind of, factors, geopolitical or otherwise, across the globe. I think fortunately for us, we have a very solid, strong international business. If you see, with a track record of significant profitability growth as well as double-digit revenue growth in most of the quarters in the last 3-4 years. And I also believe and we have coped with these kind of ups and downs in most of the businesses. So, and I strongly believe that, that our resilience is pretty high. So as far as the medium-term aspiration of delivering double-digit revenue growth as far as the international business is concerned is very much intact. Some of the places where we had issues, I think broadly the businesses have come back on track, and therefore we hardly see any significant impact in this quarter.
All right, so you're not seeing any significant impact, and your growth outlook remains intact. In terms of exports, give us a sense of the kind of growth that you are targeting. Any new geographies that you would like to aim at?
Most of our operations are, based out of countries. We have factories and overall operations out there. Very little is exported. Whereas obviously we do cater to the Indian diaspora in some of the Western markets where we are not present as an organization. But I must say that our international business is extremely robust. We also, because of our digital brands and some of the new initiatives, I think international business continues to grow. What is also interesting is, I think, because of there is always a route back to Indian traditional habits like hair oiling is again getting popularity in some parts. In fact, there was a recent article in one of the big Western newspapers about hair oiling as a category. So we are pretty, I think, optimistic about it. Having said that, I think we will restrict ourselves into emerging markets of Asia and Africa, because where we have a right to win, while we will continue to perhaps export some of our products into some of the, whether it's in Far East or whether it's in US and UK and some of the countries of Europe.
Right. Now, in terms of deploying additional capacity or investments, which aspects of your business or segments of your business would you like to invest most heavily in FY25?
I think we have pretty comfortable capacity. I think obviously we have a significant aspiration in foods, and this is where we are developing, I think, just not manufacturing capability but long-term supply chain capability, because as you know, food supply chain, it is not only capex intensive a little bit, but also there is a huge emphasis on stock freshness, given the shelf life of food is different from some of our other products. So we are gearing up significantly in our capability, and this is one area we will obviously continue to invest. As far as some of the digital brands are concerned, obviously they have a different operating model. We intend to not keep it. We want to keep it far more an agile operating systems, and they are not necessarily very capex intensive, but we want to run it as a far more agile, because they have multiple SKUs, they have far more shorter innovation cycles, and they operate with far greater agility and complexity compared to our business, which has a different kind of scale and complexity.
Right. So that brings me to my next question. Any new launches that you would like to probably give us a sense of, at least, with which you'd like to capture a greater market share?
Continue to have significant new product launches in food. Food is something which is a area where we have grown 4x in the last 4 years. We intend to double in the next 3 years, and this is something which is a strategic part of our diversification, because we believe that the total addressable market expansion available at Saffola is extremely critical and extremely big opportunity for us. So you will continue to see launches in foods. We are testing out certain things. Equally, we have a very, very action-packed agenda in some of our digital brands. And as far as the other core is concerned, yes, I think innovation is something we need to, we need to increase the momentum in some of our core brands also. But having said that, I think the diversification journey, as far as we are concerned with premium personal care, with food and digital, is very much on track, and we are so far tracking ahead of our aspirations this year.
In terms of growth plans for digital first brands of Marico, what would be your plans for the next 5 years?
I think we need to get into a 1,000 crore plus business over the next 3 years and we are not only looking at growth, but we are balancing with profitability with double-digit EBITDA. I think two of our brands, Beardo and Plix, are on a high growth momentum with run rates greater than 200 crores, and therefore they have the ability in the next 4 to 5 years to hit 500 crores. And I'm, I think, very, very optimistic. And we will continue to look for both organic and inorganic opportunities as far as digital business is concerned. 3 years, 4 years from now, we would like to be known as not only a very solid FMCG company, but a very, very successful digital consumer company also.
So you're talking about becoming a strong digital consumer company. So can we assume that if there are acquisitions that Marico is eyeing, that would be in digital first brands?
We look at everything. Having said that, I think we now have a working model that works for digital is concerned. I think we are a strategic investor of choice for a lot of founders who are doing exciting work, and therefore we are always on the lookout for it. Having said that, if there are opportunities and core opportunities in food, opportunities, some of the international markets, yes, we always look at it. But having said that, I think one of the things we believe in is that acquisitions or inorganic growth can't substitute organic growth. It can be best an accelerator and not an escape button for not doing organic growth.
Interesting conversation there, but for now, we need to slip into a very short break. We'll come back with more on the markets on the other side. Welcome back. Now, yesterday, Reliance's 47th AGM has brought some exciting news for cloud storage users in India. Jio is offering new Jio AI Cloud welcome offer that promises up to 100 GB of free cloud storage to Jio users. This will be effective from Diwali. So to talk more about how disruptive is this going to be, because with this step, they're going to take on global giants like Amazon, Google, and even Apple. We have with us Neil Shah of Counterpoint Research joining in. Neil, first to just set the context, right? Jio is going to provide you 100 GB of cloud storage free. What is the current pricing of other cloud storage providers?
If you look at Google, first of all, thanks for having me here. And if you look at Google, the base tier, which is like 50 GB is for free. But if you add the 100 GB tier, it's close to 130 rupees. And similarly, per month, and for Apple, it's 75 rupees for 50 GB. So essentially, Jio is giving away 100 GB for free to the users, and which is a very strategic move from Jio.
Why do you call it strategic? What is it that Jio aims to, how does it benefit?
So there are multiple benefits for Jio. Obviously, one is getting more users onto their platform. It's a good way of Jio to get them integrated within the cloud, collect their data, all the backups and everything, which can help Jio to train the AI. And that is what most of the providers do. So if you use Gmail and it's free, it's because nothing is free in this world. And Google uses that data to build a profile around for you, and then targets ads as well as cross-sell other services. So technically, this free tier is an entry for Jio to get more users on the platform, to help it train its AI, and eventually pass on more benefits and services to the users and monetize it.
Okay. You spoke about, so it makes sense for an existing Jio user who's already a part of the ecosystem to switch to Jio Cloud. But what about someone like me? Now, I have an iPhone. My data already gets stored on an Apple Cloud. Do you think it's possible, it's going to be easy for customers who already have a Google Cloud account, an Apple Cloud account, to switch to Jio Cloud? What's going to be, how is that road going to be?
That's a great question. And that is where most of the friction is for Jio at this point. Having a 100 GB free tier is good for attracting, but how Jio can integrate it different apps and different OEMs is going to be difficult. And it's going to be challenging as well at the same time. If you look at all the hygiene apps like WhatsApp, right? By default, everything is uploaded to either iCloud or is it uploaded to Google if you're an Android phone. And with more tiers, actually Google and Apple are bundling more services like music or Apple TV Plus and so forth. So at some point, Jio will have to have a deeper integration for the Jio Cloud within different applications as well as OEMs. So there is less friction for users to upload their data to the Jio Cloud. So far, it's going to be a long road, a difficult road for Jio to convince users to use two cloud providers at the same time.
But we know from past experience that Jio was able to disrupt the telecom market when it launched in 2017. It forced the competitors to bring down the pricing. Right. Do you think in this case it's possible that the price of cloud storage, you spoke about how for a similar service with Google Cloud, you need to pay 130 rupees per month, which means effectively for the entire year, you're paying about 1,500 rupees. Do you think there's a possibility that pricing of cloud storage comes down in India from here on?
I think you make a very valid point, and that is what we have seen, right? So if you look at Ola, Bhavish Agarwal said, "Oh, I'm going with Ola Maps. I'm not going to use Google." Suddenly, Google slashed Google Maps pricing by 70%. Right. So we could see such moves from competitors, but only difference here is the Google Cloud and iCloud, Apple iCloud, are deeply integrated into the platform, right? And you can't get away with it unless there is something from the policy side that you have to unbundle and allow multiple cloud providers to be equally distributed within the platform, right? And obviously, we have seen Competition Commission of India going after Google and Apple to unbundle most of their applications and services, right? So there could be some reprieve in future, but for now, the only way Google and Apple can give answer is by reducing price a little, but still they have more leverage than Jio at this point.
One word answer, yes or no. So do you think Jio Cloud is going to be as disruptive as the telecom business was?
It's too early to say. As I said, it's too early to say. They have to integrate it deeply within the overall platform to make it more viable and usable.
Okay, we leave it at that. Thanks a lot for joining in. Appreciate your time here on CNBC TV 18. Let's slip into a short break on that note. Markets are still fine. The Sensex is holding up with a gain of around 0.3%. The Nifty also building on to its gains and sitting at record highs. Right now up almost about 80 odd points. Let's slip into a short break. We'll get you more on the markets on the other side. Welcome back to Trading Hour on CNBC TV 18. As we were telling you earlier, this market is not doing too badly, actually. It's doing pretty well at the moment. So the Nifty is building on to its gains. And there's plenty, if you look at the flows as well, right? Both FIIs and DIIs bought in the cash markets yesterday. The global markets have been pretty stable at the moment. And if you look at individual stocks as well, a lot of stocks trending higher as we speak. Some of these defense names have started to come back in action. So HAL has been picking up a bit of pace this morning. And in terms of big movers, you have a lot of the sugar stocks, of course, Triveni, Sri Renuka, that are big movers at the moment. But some of these PSU names have also come back in a big way. Then you have names like Uno Minda, Finolex Cables, MCX. MCX has also been gaining quite a bit of ground lately. Something like a City Union Bank also picking up quite a bit of pace. Look at MCX, by the way, 5% higher as we speak. And big gain in the last 1 month. MCX is up almost about 25 odd percent. This entire piece has been looking very good. So that's one pocket. Real estate is also coming back. Prestige Estates, by the way, is a big mover this morning. That stock is up almost about 6.5 odd percent. The Nifty Realty Index has been sort of stop and start for the last few days. But today, Prestige Estates is back in the news. But Zepto has pretty much been shaking the quick commerce landscape yet again with a fresh $340 million top-up to take its total fundraising in 2024 to over $1 billion at a valuation of $5 billion. The funding comes as the 3-year-old startup expands rapidly and prepares its balance sheet for a possible IPO with a realistic timeline of 2025 or 2026. In an exclusive chat with Shireen Bhan, the co-founder and CEO Adit Palicha said that the sweet spot to hit the public markets will appear once the company starts to generate significant free cash flows. Listen in.
How IPO ready do you feel today? And what are going to be the next sort of pieces that you focus on before you actually get ready to file the DRHP?
I honestly think it's just like a matter of, when do we see, the right sweet spot of, hey, we're inflecting. We think that we're going to get into, harvest significant amounts of, free cash flow in like a relatively short period of time. That's, I think, the right spot to go public. And look, it's a commercial strategic call. Yeah. I think that happens in, probably sooner than even I anticipated. Yeah. And, we're a fast company, so we take a call to go public, we go public very quickly. But yeah, I think 2026, potentially even late 2025 is a realistic timeline. And our focus would be build excellence on controls and make sure that you have a high, it's not about profitability today. Yeah. It's about, do you have, because, break-even-ish is not what people are betting on. They're betting on, can you generate $300, $400, $500 million of free cash flow in like a reasonable period of time? And so once we see that inflection point, we'll say, that's the right time to go public.
I know you're doing the rounds of the investor conferences, Adit, Goldman Sachs, Motilal Oswal. What are the questions that they're asking you? Are they excited about the anticipated IPO?
Look, I think fortunately, there is excitement. I think, obviously the public guys have less detail on our bottoms-up numbers versus the private guys do. I think one thing I'd say for sure is that meeting the ecosystem 2021 when we were just getting started versus 2024, I feel like there's just a much deeper understanding of what quality internet companies look like and what bad internet companies look like. And the questions that are being asked are much deeper, right? So today you'll have discussions on, okay, if the atomic unit of your business is the store, what's the return on equity mechanics of the store? What's the return on equity mechanics for every customer that you're acquiring? What's the CLTV to CAC on that? So you're having really thoughtful, deep conversations, and we've really been excited about the way the public markets not just like understand our business, and I think obviously they're richly valuing this space, but it's not coming from just like some random thought process, right? It's actually coming from like an understanding of the mechanics of this business financially, but more importantly, the value for customers.
And a growing conviction in the fact that this business will actually work and take off, because that wasn't the case 2 years ago.
For sure. Look, I think I would say it's half the business model, but also half the execution, right? I think folks are, there would have been a very real world 2 years ago when people had skepticism on this business model, and it would have failed. Like if we didn't execute, and it's not just Zepto, it's all the players in the space that did well. We've really just executed a very difficult business model. And we're getting rewarded for that.
Okay, interesting chat there. And you can catch excerpts of this exclusive interview with Adit Palicha, co-founder and CEO of Zepto, all day today, only on CNBC TV 18. Well, the end of the month is almost here, and it's time now to look ahead to what the auto sales numbers might look like for the month of August. Sudarshan joins in with the expectations. Sudarshan, it's going to be a busy weekend for you.
That's correct. So auto companies will be reporting the month of sales for the month of August on Sunday and Monday, and overall volumes for the sector are expected to be tepid for the month of August, and we may see two-wheelers and tractor segment outperform or might be doing relatively better than passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles. As per analysts, inventory levels remain elevated 40 to 50 days, and they expect this can normalize as demand picks up during festive season, as this time festive season is a little longer than we had last year. Another headwind that sector is facing is increase in commodity costs. Commodity cost for passenger vehicles is up 20 bips month on month, and for two-wheelers, commodity costs are up more than 100 bips month on month. Now, talk about some positive factors. Rural sentiment. Analysts believe rural sentiment is turning positive. And second positive factor is monsoon rainfall has been 7% above normal so far. Considering all these factors in two-wheelers, Bajaj Auto sales are seen rising 10% YOY and 11% month on month. Hero Moto sales are seen flat year-on-year, but rising 16% month-on-month. For TVS Motors, sales are seen rising 10% year-on-year and 8% month-on-month. For Royal Enfield, sales are seen falling 6% year-on-year and down 1% month-on-month. In four-wheelers for passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles, Maruti Suzuki sales are seen falling 5% year-on-year and expected to be flat month-on-month. For M&M Auto, sales are seen rising 2% year-on-year, but on month-on-month, it's seen falling 1%. For Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland, both these companies may see sales falling both month-on-month and year-on-year. For tractor segment, M&M tractor sales may rise 6% year-on-year, but on month-on-month, it may see a fall of 12%. For Escorts, sales are seen rising 1% year-on-year and 4% month-on-month. So we'll see how the real numbers pan out, but as far as stocks are concerned, most of the stocks have seen an up move in the recent past in line with market, and the sectoral index Nifty Auto sector remains near record high.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. So that's a big barometer to estimate what the trend of the industry, trend of the economy is. The auto sales had come out in less than 48 hours from now. But the Indian economy is expected to have grown by 6.8% in the first quarter of the current fiscal. That is during the April, May, June months. That's according to a CNBC TV 18 poll. The numbers will be announced today at 5:30 p.m. Lata Venkatesh is here with a preview. Lata, over to you.
Yeah, that's right. Our poll indicated that the GDP may have grown in the April, May, June quarter by 6.8%. And this is over a high base of 8.2% year ago, April, May, June. And the previous quarter, that is Jan, Feb, March, the GDP was 7.8. So either ways, it is low. In fact, if it actually comes at 6.8, it will be the slowest GDP growth in 5 quarters. The last time we grew below 7% was in Jan, Feb, March of 2023, that is FY22. Now, the GVA estimate, gross value add, the poll indicated will come at 6.4, which is rather low, But there is a very small percentage of people who believe that the GVA could be higher. It so much depends on how much subsidies the states have given. If some of the states have given more subsidies, the GVA could be even higher than the GDP. The agriculture part is expected to have grown by 2.9%. Industry is still expected to be strong, growing by about 8%. And services are expected to be softer at between 6 and 6.5%. The services were soft because if you remember, April, May, June were both election months and more importantly, very hot months. It was an El Nino summer and therefore a lot of services could not be rendered in that kind of a heat. Full year GDP, most economists believe will be below 7%, but of course, they will modify their numbers after they see the first quarter. The Reserve Bank, you must remember, expects the GDP to have grown by 7.1%, and for the full year, they are highest on the street at 7.2%. But we will know at 5:30 on August 30th what the actual numbers are.
Okay, thanks a lot, Lata, for that. Well, then let's now cut across to the Global FinTech Fest, where RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das is speaking.
By combining proactive policy making with innovation and technological advancements. Collaboration between policymakers, regulators, and innovators is defining element of India's fintech journey. The success stories in our fintech space like Aadhaar, UPI, and the DigiLocker are results of such collaborative efforts. Initiatives like Account Aggregator Framework, Unified Lending Interface, that is ULI, Open Credit Enabled Network, that is OCEN, and several others are expected to redefine credit access, particularly for small businesses and individuals. The Reserve Bank's regulatory frameworks have facilitated new and innovative businesses to grow in an orderly manner. These regulatory initiatives reflect our commitment to support innovation with prudence. Our collaborative approach is visible in the fact that we have held large number of interactions over the last 1 year with the fintech sector players. For example, the various departments and officials of the Reserve Bank have held about 750 bilateral interactions and held about 50 structured meetings with the fintech players. As we march towards India at 100 in the year 2047, I urge every participant at this GFF and others who could not attend, and hopefully, and I'm sure, they will attend the future editions of GFF event. I would urge each one of you to continue dreaming, innovating, and pushing boundaries. Thank you. Namaskar.
धन्यवाद. थैंक यू गवर्नर सर. अब हम हमारे सम्माननीय भारत के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री डिजिटल इंडिया के शिल्पकार श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी से विनम्र अनुरोध करते हैं कि वे ये सभा को संबोधित करें. We request Prime Minister of India honored to address this august gathering.
नमस्कार. आरबीआई के गवर्नर श्रीमान शक्तिकांत दास जी, क्रिस गोपाल कृष्णन जी, members of regulators, finance industry के leaders, fintech और startup world के मेरे साथी, अन्य सभी महानुभाव, देवी और सज्जनों, ये भारत में त्योहारों का मौसम है. अभी जन्माष्टमी हमने मनाई है और खुशी देखिए, हमारी इकोनॉमी और हमारे मार्केट में भी उत्सव का माहौल है. इस फेस्टिव मूड में ये ग्लोबल फिनटेक फेस्टिवल हो रहा है। और वो भी सपनों की नगरी मुंबई में। मैं देश और दुनिया से आए यहाँ सभी मेहमानों का अभिनंदन करता हूँ, स्वागत करता हूँ। यहाँ से आने से पहले मैं अलग अलग एग्जीबिशंस देख करके आया हूँ, काफी साथियों से गप्पे गोष्ठी करके आया हूँ। हमारे नौजवानों के इनोवेशन का और फ्यूचर की संभावनाओं का एक पूरा नया संसार वहां दिखाई दे रहा है। चलिए, आपके काम के लिए मैं शब्द बदलता हूं। एक पूरी नई दुनिया दिखाई दे रही है। मैं इस फेस्टिवल के आयोजकों को सबको बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, यहां बड़ी संख्या में विदेशों से हमारे मेहमान भी आए हैं। एक समय था जब लोग भारत आते थे तो हमारी कल्चरल डाइवर्सिटी देखकर दंग रह जाते थे, हैरान हो जाते थे। अब लोग भारत आते हैं तो हमारी फिनटेक डाइवर्सिटी को देखकर भी हैरान होते हैं। एयरपोर्ट पर लैंड करने से लेकर स्ट्रीट फूड और शॉपिंग एक्सपीरियंस तक भारत की फिनटेक क्रांति चारों तरफ दिखती है। पिछले 10 साल में फिनटेक स्पेस में $31 बिलियन से ज्यादा का निवेश हुआ है। दस साल में हमारे फिनटेक स्टार्टअप्स में 500% वृद्धि हुई है। सस्ते मोबाइल फोन, सस्ते डेटा और जीरो बैलेंस जनधन बैंक खातों ने भारत में कमाल कर दिया है। आपको याद होगा, कुछ लोग पहले पूछते थे, पार्लियामेंट में खड़े होकर के पूछते थे और अपने आप को बहुत विद्वान मानने वाले लोग पूछते थे। सरस्वती जब बुद्धि बांट रही थी तो वो रास्ते में पहले ही खड़े थे। और क्या कहते थे? वो पूछते थे कि भारत में बैंक इतनी ब्रांचेज नहीं है, गांव-गांव बैंक अवेलेबल नहीं है, इंटरनेट नहीं है, यहां तक पूछ लेते थे बिजली भी तो नहीं है, रिचार्जिंग कहां होगा, फिनटेक क्रांति कैसे होगी, ये पूछा जाता था। और मुझ जैसे एक चाय वाले को पूछा जाता था। लेकिन आज देखिए, एक दशक में ही भारत में ब्रॉडबैंड यूजर 60 मिलियन यानी 6 करोड़ से बढ़कर 940 मिलियन यानी करीब 94 करोड़ हो गए हैं। आज 18 वर्ष से ऊपर का शायद ही कोई भारतीय हो जिसके पास उसकी डिजिटल आइडेंटिटी आधार कार्ड नहीं है। आज 530 मिलियन यानी 53 करोड़ से अधिक लोगों के पास जनधन बैंक खाते हो गए हैं। यानी 10 साल में हमने एक प्रकार से पूरी यूरोपियन यूनियन के बराबर आबादी को बैंकिंग सिस्टम से जोड़ा है। साथियों, जनधन, आधार, मोबाइल की ट्रिनिटी ने एक और ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन को गति दी है। कभी लोग कहते थे कि कैश इज किंग। आज दुनिया का करीब करीब आधा रियल टाइम डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन भारत में होता है। पूरी दुनिया में भारत का यूपीआई फिनटेक का बहुत बड़ा उदाहरण बन गया है। आज गांव हो या शहर, सर्दी हो या गर्मी, बारिश हो या बर्फ गिर रही हो, भारत में बैंकिंग सर्विस 24 घंटे 7 दिन 12 महीने चलती रहती है। कोरोना के इतने बड़े संकट के दौरान भी भारत दुनिया के उन देशों में था जहां हमारी बैंकिंग सर्विस बिना किसी दिक्कत के चलती रही। साथियों, अभी 2-3 दिन पहले ही जनधन योजना के 10 साल पूरे हुए हैं। जनधन योजना विमेन एम्पावरमेंट का बहुत बड़ा माध्यम बनी है। जनधन योजना के चलते करीब 290 मिलियन यानी 29 करोड़ से ज्यादा महिलाओं के बैंक खाते खुले हैं। इन खातों में महिलाओं के लिए सेविंग्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए नए अवसर बनाए हैं। इन्हीं जनधन खातों की फिलॉसफी पर हमने माइक्रो फाइनेंस की सबसे बड़ी स्कीम मुद्रा लॉन्च की। इस स्कीम से अभी तक 27 ट्रिलियन रुपए से अधिक का क्रेडिट दिया जा चुका है। 27 ट्रिलियन। इस स्कीम की करीब 70% बेनिफिशियरी महिलाएं हैं। जनधन खातों ने महिलाओं के सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स को भी बैंकिंग से जोड़ा। इसका फायदा आज देश की 10 करोड़ रूरल विमेन को मिल रहा है। यानी जनधन प्रोग्राम ने महिलाओं के फाइनेंशियल एम्पावरमेंट की एक मजबूत नींव रखी है। साथियों, पूरी दुनिया के लिए पैरेलल इकोनॉमी एक बड़ी चिंता का विषय रही है। फिनटेक ने पैरेलल इकोनॉमी पर भी चोट की है और बधाई के पात्र आप लोग हैं। आपने ये भी देखा है कि कैसे हम भारत में डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी से ट्रांसपेरेंसी लेकर आए हैं। आज सरकार की सैकड़ों स्कीम्स के तहत डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट ट्रांसफर किया जाता है। इसमें सिस्टम से लीकेज बंद हुई है। आज लोगों को फॉर्मल सिस्टम से जुड़ने में अपना लाभ नजर आता है। साथियों, भारत में फिनटेक की वजह से जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आया है वो सिर्फ टेक्नोलॉजी तक ही सीमित नहीं है। इसका सोशल इंपैक्ट बहुत व्यापक है। इससे गांव और शहर की खाई को ब्रीच करने में मदद मिली है। कभी हमारे यहां बैंक की सर्विस लेने में ही एक पूरा दिन लग जाता था। एक किसान के लिए, एक मछुआरे के लिए, एक मिडिल क्लास परिवार के लिए ये बहुत बड़ी मुसीबत थी। फिनटेक ने इस समस्या को दूर किया। कभी बैंक सिर्फ एक बिल्डिंग तक सीमित हुआ करते थे, आज बैंक हर भारतीय के मोबाइल में सिमट गए हैं। साथियों, फिनटेक ने फाइनेंशियल सर्विस को डेमोक्रेटिक बनाने में भी बड़ी भूमिका निभाई है। लोन, क्रेडिट कार्ड, इन्वेस्टमेंट, इंश्योरेंस जैसे प्रोडक्ट सबके लिए आसानी से सुलभ हो रहे हैं। फिनटेक ने एक्सेस टू क्रेडिट को भी आसान और इंक्लूसिव बना दिया है। मैं एक उदाहरण देता हूं। आप जानते हैं, भारत में स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स की एक पुरानी परंपरा है, लेकिन वो फॉर्मल बैंकिंग से बाहर थे। फिनटेक ने इस स्थिति को भी बदल दिया। आज वो पीएम स्वनिधि योजना से कोलेटरल फ्री लोन ले पा रहे हैं। डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन रिकॉर्ड के आधार पर उनको बिजनेस बढ़ाने के लिए और लोन मिलता रहता है। कभी शेयर और म्यूचुअल फंड जैसे प्रोडक्ट में इन्वेस्टमेंट बड़े शहरों में ही संभव था। आज गांव और कस्बों में भी इन्वेस्टमेंट के इस एवेन्यू को बड़ी संख्या में एक्सप्लोर किया जा रहा है। आज कुछ ही मिनटों में घर बैठे ही डीमैट अकाउंट खुल रहे हैं, इन्वेस्टमेंट रिपोर्ट्स ऑनलाइन मिल रही है। आज बड़ी संख्या में भारतीय रिमोट हेल्थ केयर सर्विस ले रहे हैं, डिजिटली ऑनलाइन पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं, स्किल्स सीख रहे हैं। ये भी फिनटेक के बिना संभव नहीं था। यानी भारत की फिनटेक क्रांति डिग्निटी ऑफ लाइफ, क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ उसको बेहतर बनाने में भी बड़ा रोल निभा रही है। साथियों, भारत की फिनटेक क्रांति की उपलब्धि सिर्फ इनोवेशंस के लिए ही नहीं बल्कि एडॉप्शन लेकर के भी है। भारत की जनता ने जिस स्पीड और स्केल पर फिनटेक को एडॉप्ट किया है उसका उदाहरण कहीं और नहीं मिल सकता। इसका एक बड़ा क्रेडिट हमारे डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डीपीआई को भी जाता है और हमारे फिनटेक्स को भी जाता है। देश में इस टेक्नोलॉजी को लेकर ट्रस्ट पैदा करने के लिए अद्भुत इनोवेशन किए गए हैं। क्यूआर कोड्स के साथ साथ साउंड बॉक्स का उपयोग ऐसा ही इनोवेशन है। हमारे फिनटेक सेक्टर को सरकार के बैंक सखी कार्यक्रम का भी अध्ययन करना चाहिए। और मैं सब फिनटेक के वाले नौजवानों को कहना चाहता हूं, ये बैंक सखी है क्या? मैं अभी जलगांव आया था एक दिन, तो मैं ऐसी बैंक सखियों से मिला तो बड़े गर्व से कहते मैं एक दिन में 1.5 करोड़ रुपए का कारोबार करती हूं। क्या कॉन्फिडेंस! और एक गांव की महिला थी वो। हमारी बेटियों ने गांव-गांव में बैंकिंग को, डिजिटल अवेयरनेस को जिस प्रकार फैलाया है उससे फिनटेक को एक नया बाजार मिला है। साथियों, 21वीं सदी की दुनिया बहुत तेजी से बदल रही है। करेंसी से क्यूआर कोड तक की यात्रा में सदियां लग गई, लेकिन अब हर रोज हम नए इनोवेशन देख रहे हैं। डिजिटल ओनली बैंक्स और नियो बैंकिंग जैसे कंसेप्ट हमारे सामने हैं। डिजिटल ट्विंस जैसी टेक्नोलॉजी डेटा आधारित बैंकिंग को नेक्स्ट लेवल पर ले जा रही है। इससे रिस्क मैनेजमेंट, फ्रॉड डिटेक्शन और कस्टमर एक्सपीरियंस सब कुछ बदलने वाले हैं।